Good rising this Sunday morning on January 24th at 9 a.m. That's right, it's 9 a.m. Eastern time, everybody, and I am your host, Regina Rossi Lamath, from Here For You and Here For You Connections and Resources and Coaching and Fitness. Yes, everybody, guess what? This is what I have been waiting for, and we get double dose of me today and double dose of Hal Eisenberg. I'm super excited to have him as my guest, and it's not even like a guest, just like, guys, guess what? This is going to be you guys learning about Hal and I and how we talk all the time. It's like no difference of if we're going live or if we're on the phone or when we were in person, like sitting on a floor. But today is super special for me because you guys, if you didn't remember, I had Hal back in September. He had finally had his book, Beautiful Souls, out and ready for the public. He wrote it. He's the author, and he had it out and still has it out for the public to read. And so we spoke about Beautiful Souls for a little bit, and then we got into like everything else that he does. And today is the day that we are redefining the dreaded word. Here we go. Bum, bum, bum. Divorce. That's right. For those of you who don't know Hal, you know, he's got a list of accomplishments in his life and still out there going back to school and getting more doctorate degrees and you know, involved in so many things. But Hal and I really chose today to kind of take it personal, you know, like really grab it personal, because we both are in personal and professional growth and development work. You know, he has a ton of things that he works in high schools with. He has his own nonprofit. He now started the Hal Eisenberg Leadership Academy. He just connected and is now really collaborated in full 100% partnership with the Passion Center. And he's a Passion Activator. All of that, and what all that means is that we are out to have people really delve deep inside, heal the past, and really see themselves as the extraordinary human beings that they are, and out to fulfill what they want to fulfill in the world. How Hal and I say it, we want to put an imprint on this planet and leave a legacy. So thank you, Hal Eisenberg, for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Regina. First, let me just say congratulations to you and your program. I know when I was your first guest, which I was really honored about, I know that it was like your first, like, I don't know, kind of like day and like jump into the world of, like, you know, coaching. And I was honored that you came to me to, I guess after we talk about what we're going to talk about today, maybe it won't be so shocking that you came to me, but like, I love the fact that you did. And I wanted to just say congratulations of how far you've come since then. I'm seeing you online every week. I'm seeing you, you know, on morning calls. I see you have consistency and amazing guests, and you're doing amazing work in this world. So I just want to say I'm proud of you and I'm honored to be here. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Awesome. Well, we've got, for Hal and I, having 56 minutes left to talk about stuff.
That's not enough time.
So we joked about it before that we might honestly do part 3. All right, let's jump right in, guys. Here it is. For those of you who do not know, guess what? Hal and I were married. That's right. We were married back in, we're going to talk about our age, 1998. And we were married for approximately, he wasn't even born yet. Yes, we were married back in 1998, and we were married for 5 years before we got separated. And then through the separation, through the courts and the legalness, we were separated for that year. We chose to have an uncontested divorce and just allow like mutual agreement, you know, move out into different households. And then you can put that into the court system easily. And we used a dear friend of both of ours, who we are still very good friends with, who is my best friend, Laura, and his dear friend, Laura, who is also his lawyer for his nonprofit. So yeah, guys, you can be married. You can become friends with your wife's, best friend and still have that relationship as well. And so we use that time, right? We use that time to have that happen and dissolve. And so it took, I think, about another year. So, married 5, separated for a year. So by year 7, but we also knew each other prior. A good, I would say a year as well, a year prior. Yeah, about a year and a half. So through that whole entire journey of meeting, and now, you know what, if I really think about this, no, it isn't. Because think about this, Al. My father died in 1997. And I met you that New Year's. And then my dad died. So really it was 97 we met, 98 we married. 5 years later we separated, whatever that year is.
Gets to a certain point where everything's kind of a blur. And I just want to add to that, Regina, for a quick second, as we're listening, sure. all the possibilities. I'm also really very close with who you're married to now, who ended up creating my original website for my agency, and we're still in a band 22 years later. So yeah, which totally rocks. So the band and the fact that we're still this close. Yeah, no, absolutely. Josh and Hal absolutely really adore each other. They both have so much respect for one another. Josh jumped in right away into learning about windows of opportunity and created his website, to the point of Hal was really so generous, because Josh and I wanted to get our passion and mission out of Rock Your Heart Out, and Hal jumped right into that, and we had the Rock Your Heart Out program for many years through Windows of Opportunity. So now that you all have it, here we go. Did everybody get that? There'll be a test at the
end. Here we go. Okay. Dreaded word, divorce. Before we even get into us, the word divorce for most people, and especially since I'm, in a lot of moms groups, constantly from a female perspective, most of the stuff that I read and most of the stuff that I see online is women really struggling, women very, very angry, hurt, disempowered, and when they have that safe tribe to talk to, it's, out to them, right? Because they feel like they got them, the ex, the soon-to-be ex is going to be the one who hurt them. If it's through infidelity, if it's from, unfortunately, a disease like alcoholism or substance abuse, no matter what that situation is that the parties choose to finish their relationship, there's definitely a highly charged emotion around it. And so that word divorce really comes across as a negative connotation. We as a society have put a lot of highly charged context on it. If anybody's watching, please #relate. This is not we don't want this to be a pretty conversation. We want you guys to be raw and real with us. So when you hear the word divorce, because if you guys didn't know, I wasn't Hal's first marriage. He was married once before me when he was younger. So he's gone through 2 marriages. And when you hear that word divorce, not now, not in the context of now, because we're out to share that later, but let's go back to when you were younger and, you were married and there you were with, a baby and in this marriage, and then you knew it was over. So what is happening for you? Because you really talked about that a lot in your book, because it's not about the person, it's about you.
It's 100% about me. And it's not even about me, Regina. And of course, these comments are in 2020, hindsight, right? So, and it's from all the personal development work that I've done. And even more recently, some of the the deeper dive work that I've done, on deconstructing my ego and my soul essence and doing the work with the Passion Center, you start to realize that you have belief constructs about the world, right? So as young as 4, 5, 6 years old, maybe even younger, you are exposed to situations that develop how you see the world. And how you see the world, sometimes you create this deep-rooted pain and trauma, or maybe it's not pain or trauma, it's stories that you're wired, that you tell yourself about the world around you. And the way that your consciousness is wired is you keep looking for proof to prove whatever that story is that you tell it. So now looking back, I could see that all the relationships I attracted, or all the relationships that I went into, I had like really tunnel vision, and I really was taking that baggage with me and just adding to the baggage of my story. And here's the kicker, Regina: we all do that, right? So it's almost kind of like, I'm not sure which way to go with this conversation. There's such a stigma in society, not only around the word divorce, but around the word marriage. We have all these expectations in society to fulfill these labels, right? To fulfill, in sickness and health, in good times and bad times. And we don't really get to the true essence of who we are before we even go into the relationship. We're thinking we want the white picket fence and the marriage and the puppy and the, and all that beautiful, and not that stuff is wrong or bad. If you have that, that's awesome. What I'm saying is that sometimes we're really unaware of the stories we tell ourselves and the reasons that we're going into those stories. So, with that relationship, when I was really, really young, I was a kid. I was a kid that had just gotten myself out of, drug addiction, and just gotten myself, off the streets. And these were all stories that was feeding the fact that I felt unlovable. I felt I didn't know how to love myself. I honestly, Regina, to be honest, all these years later, I'm just starting now through my journey of healing and health to understand what self-love really means. Now, the bigger picture of all that, Regina, is if we had a society that nurtured self-love, and being able to develop those healthy strategies when we were that young, then we would be getting into relationships that were healthier. Now fast forward, as we peel away the wounds and the stories, and we look around, and it's like, how did I get here? And, what is this all about? If you're starting now, like I am, then you really discover what love is. And then you go back and you look at the relationships like I had with you, and like I had with that first relationship. And I'm like, wow, that relationship didn't have a shot, and it had nothing to do with you, and it had nothing to do with anybody I dated. It had to do with how I loved myself. You can't truly love on a higher plane until you really start loving yourself, which is my belief. And there's a whole bunch of stuff packaged in there. So
love it. Love it. Haha, heart that one. Yeah. So guys, if you think this is cliche, because I'm clear that many of you who've been listening have heard this, you can't love somebody else until you love yourself. Guess what? Mine and Hal's belief system, and anybody else who's out there listening who have done the work and is doing the work, #truth. Because here's the thing, like Hal said, I, like him, was in other relationships, wasn't married, but I've been in a relationship since 7th grade. And so what I do is I get myself into long-term relationships. And what I do is I make sure that that person is never going to hurt me. So what I do is I finish the relationships. I bail. That's right. I left Hal. I'm the one who asked him for a divorce. So going back to what he was talking about, yes, Hal, our belief systems are made up from the minute we're born up until we would say the incidence of, conversations. They say, if you start researching it, up until the age of 9. I kind of had this conversation the other day on my live mornings, which is pretty much between 0 and 5. Most of those belief systems and our conversations that our parents tell us. So if I say to you, Hal, do you remember when you were born, blah, 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 and you're going to go, we'll use a story, because our parents will say, oh, Hal, when you were 6 months old, when you were 8 months old, when you were this months old. And then that is a conversation that is told to you over and over and over again. And then it gets wired into your brain, and it gets a meaning to you, and it gets an emotion and a feeling to you. And then you make a story around that. So why I'm going to go first is to say why Hal never had a shot with me at all, which is, even though, again, we don't regret anything. It's a beautiful part of the journey, which is that before we got on, we were talking about what that story is. And for me, like I said, I've been in long-term relationships my whole entire life. And then I'm the one who walks out and leaves because I don't want anybody to ever hurt me. So when I did my courses and my personal growth development, and I got that story through Landmark Education, it was thinking about what was the first time that I remember having this feeling of there's something wrong here. There's something wrong here. And it was like between 0 and 5, the leader asked, there's something wrong here. And I was like, I don't know. I was thinking about like my grandmother when she died, there was something wrong here. And that was like, oh yeah, when my grandmother passed away, I saw my dad. So going to the male figure, because, I married a male, like, that's the relationships I choose. And it was like, in our family, men don't cry. The conversation is, children should be seen and not heard, and men are strong. So my dad started crying when my grandmother died at 5. I remember that clearly. It was a day after Christmas. And that, seeing that, growing up in that context, in that conversation of men are strong, men don't cry, you've got to keep it together. I was like, there's something wrong. So I wanted so badly to make my dad feel better. Just make my dad feel better. Make him feel so good. So hence, I go out and find relationships where somebody occurs to be hurt. Somebody is dealing with something, right? Hence, when we met, right, you were going through all of your stuff that you were going through from your divorce for, and I was like that one to so desperately wanted to make you feel better. That was the first story I got. Hence, I've always found relationships of wanting to, make someone feel better and fix them because there's something wrong. When I did it deeper, and I kept on going deeper, wasn't that. That was like the story that has me keep on being in relationships, that keeps on having me be in relationships for a long time. And I'm happy. And I'm like, oh, yay, they need me. I can help them. I can help them. I can help them. I can help them. Until it's like, what the freak? Why aren't they doing anything? Why aren't they doing what I'm telling them to do? Why aren't they with you? Why aren't you going to talk to somebody? Why are you going to do this with me? Why aren't you going to do that with me? Like that kind of frustration, ladies, when you ask your men to do something and they're like, no, and they have an excuse and they have an excuse and they have an excuse. And then the frustration builds in, and then the frustration gets more and more and more. And then I'm mad and I'm angry and I resent you. I resent them. So now I'm curious, where does that resentment come from? Because guess what, ladies? It's not externally, it's internally. It's internally. Resentment comes from, it's so easy to blame somebody else. It's his fault. Oh, it's Hal's fault. Hal's so busy working. Hal's so busy whatever. Hal has no time. Blah, 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 blah. Where does that resentment come from? So the forum leader asked to do a deeper. It was like, did anybody want to go deeper? Because I was still blaming you. And I raised my hand. And she wanted me to think of a time between 0 and 5 again, when there was something wrong here. Like when I was a child, was there something like in my childhood, like with another young person, or like maybe like a sibling, and it hit me. Oh my God, it hit me. And I don't know if you remember the story or not. So I was in nursery school, and there was a boy named Christopher Schirnbachs. He was the cutest boy
I remember this story.
in the whole entire world. Honestly, had hair like Hal's a little bit, like, that blondish, brownish hair. And then there was another girl named Jennifer Cooley. Jennifer, man, I'd love to find you, by the way, if you're out there. And one of the things that were in nursery school was each week you'd find the boy that you like, and if you ran out to the playground and you got to catch him and kiss him on the cheek, you were the cool girl. Yay, right? Jennifer was beautiful. Jennifer, in my eyes, was beautiful. I was very tomboyish. So I already had another conversation layered on top of there, that I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not worth it. Whole other different story, but still, still puts it in. So it's my turn. It's mine and Jennifer Cooley's turn, and we run, and it's time for lunchtime, and we run, and we go up to the monkey bars, and I grab onto Christopher Schirnbachs, and I kiss him on the cheek. And what do you think happened, Hal? What do you think happened?
I know this story, but I think he embarrassed you in the playground, correct?
Not him, but all the kids started laughing.
Right. Okay.
We're in kindergarten.
Yes.
No, not even nursery school. So you go and you chase a boy and you kiss him on the cheek. And what do you think happened? People started laughing.
Right.
They just laughed. All they did was laugh. And then
typical kindergarten response.
Yeah. Hello, my daughter's 4, preschool, like nursery school, like they laughed. But here's the kicker. It wasn't the laughing. It was when it was, ew, Regina's got cooties, Regina's got cooties. And there was a thing back then that you had to get a cootie shot. You put your fingers together and you
that was before my time.
No, it's before time. I was dating him. Dating his age. I'm dating my age. But anyway, that feeling, it is that moment. It wasn't really, it was the laughing and the way, the context, the way the laughing was, the way, I don't really remember the faces, but I remember that incident that made me feel absolutely horrible. And I remember that I would never allow that ever to happen again. And so the brain then takes that incident and makes a story about it. And it's one really short line. Not a big, long story, people, one short line. So the forum leader said, how did you feel? And I was like, oh, the story is just like my father, watching him cry. I'm never going to allow that to happen to me again. I'm never going to allow that to happen to somebody again. She goes, no, that's a very more mature, because here I am in my 30s and, taking this course. She goes, I want you to think like a nursery school child. I want you to think you're feeling that way. And I want you to think when you're feeling like embarrassed, like you said, what would a little kid say? And tears came down my face, and I'm thinking about it now, and it's just making me cry. And seeing you, it just makes me cry. Which is, I came up with, I hate boys. I will never allow someone to hurt me like that again. Still there, right? It's a charge, right? It's still that piece that I'm still working on.
Yeah.
It's bigger. So, guys, why I share this is that by the time I got to Hal at 30, with all of that baggage and the stories that my mom's like, hey, you're 30, it's time for you to get married. It's time. And it was like, there's something wrong. I'm 30, I must get married. Here he is, and occurs as the perfect person and just being himself and bringing this extraordinary child with him. But really, the whole thing that's running the whole entire show is 2 stories. I'm going to save him and fix him. And oh my God, I've got all of that one side of me working. Yay. He's, got something going on, and I can be the one to feel lovable, because really behind that is nobody loved me. Nobody loved me because I had that feeling of, feeling horrible about what I did. And the real story that ran the show is I hate boys. So here's my relationship with Hal the whole entire time. Hi, Hal. I'm not looking at you. How you doing? And one foot is out the door. Waiting for that moment for him to hurt me. And when it came, boom, you're out, dude. You're out. Now I can have a ton of evidence. That's the real raw thing that Hal and I are talking about today. That is my story that, bam, has him have no shot with me. None. And it's the like angel devil, I would want to say, like on my shoulder, the angel part of me that occurs as like this great wife and this loving person, and I'm helping him, and we're helping and we're growing. But the other side really that he has no idea about, neither did I like to call it a blind spot, like when you're driving in a car, is that he has no shot. I hate boys. I didn't know that. I didn't know that story. I didn't know that was running my life. I didn't know I did it to every single guy I've ever been with. I'm sorry for everyone out there. I've talked to each and every one of my exes, by the way, and have gotten that complete based on this morning. But that's the story, and that's the truth, and that's what led to a demise way before I was able to really do this work and have it happen. And when I was doing the work, even inside of like toward the end of our marriage, like just because you go and take a course and you get some insight about something, as Hal is sharing, it's a lifetime journey. So sure, I could have made things work. Sure, I wasn't ready. I wasn't willing. I wasn't committed. It came as a concept, but it's got to go from here to here. And that's been the journey that Hal and I have been on. So although the marriage ended and it was finished in both, I could speak for myself, in my eyes, it was finished, done, cutting him off. The other side is, we were in a band. So the dutiful, I'm going to make things good and pretend everything's okay is I'm going to stay in the band and I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. And those were the years of, if you guys have ever been to some of those shows, those songs of like, if you're like, damn, she's emotional today. It was like, yeah.
Alanis Morissette. I used to think that you were going to throw a drumstick at me or something when you would turn around and sing to me.
Alanis Morissette.
I was protected by the drum set.
Yeah. I hate myself for loving you, like all that stuff, right? Woo! But
That's
like
so
we
funny.
stayed in it. Now, here's the thing, though. Through the years of choosing to learn and grow and love myself and forgive myself, and there's more stories on that, like the adoption stuff and, learning like, oh my God, that I was like, didn't love myself because I wasn't good enough. There's something wrong here. How dare somebody, throw me away? Like I'm considered a throwaway. So he had no chance. None of that was all in my blind spot. But through continuing to do this work is when I kept on reaching out to him and sharing all of these insights and all of this awareness and all this, stories, and Hal was going through what Hal was going through and doing all of his work. And we'd talk and then we'd not talk and we talk and we not talk and we talk and we not talk. And fast forward, our commitment to loving ourselves and healing ourselves, and really like having a bigger commitment to make an impact on the world, to support people in healing themselves so deeply and truly, to see how extraordinary that they are. And that in any circumstance, in any situation, in anything, that you can find some peace and some ease and some freedom and do what you love. Fast forward 20 something years later, when he was just a little baby, Hal, is where we are today. So that's my piece of what I wanted to share with him live with everybody. We've talked about it. And now he can give his version because he beautifully wrote it in his book. If you guys haven't read it, read it and talk about really where he's at in that relationship and what he brought forward into our relationship and where it's now transformed into today.
Wow, that's a lot to follow. I think the first thing that's coming up for me that I want to share with everybody is, first of all, thank you for sharing your heart and soul. It means a lot to me, and we've had these conversations before, so it's also not like I'm hearing this for the first time. And I really want to make it clear to anybody who's watching this is it's not about making anybody right or wrong or good or bad, right? It's an experience. Like life is an experience, and being really conscious of the experience you're in is super, super important and part of that healing journey. I think what I love the most, and we were talking, you talked a little bit about, we call it NLP, right, in self-development, that neuro-linguistic programming, right? So we talked a little bit about how the power of words and how we use them. I've been told that I reframe really well. So it's one of my, I kind of want to reframe a little bit of that. For me, what's coming up when you said, like, I didn't have a shot. If we really look at the definition of shot, we kind of like basketed that to, again, that society stereotype of the marriage ending. But here we are 22 years later, 23 years later, sitting here on a live conversation, sharing our emotions, sharing our growth, and sharing those lessons with those who are watching, right? So maybe people haven't had my experience or your experience, but they've had an experience, right? So like, I'm wondering if the viewers are thinking about something that happened to them when they were 16 or something that happened to them when they were 10 or 5. And then, looking at that alignment to where they are in their relationships or their chapters of their life, right? And we'll get into a little bit of the work that I'm doing now in a while, in a few minutes, but that kind of ties into that story, or into that opportunity. But going back to what you were saying about you and I think it's really beautiful where we're at, and releasing beautiful souls. And I have a couple of questions. I feel like I'm interviewing you. I'm like,
do it.
I have questions for Regina. So like beautiful souls. So I don't want to go through the whole thing because we went through it on our first interview. But very, very, very briefly, that book was a lot longer than expected. And it was really, really a cathartic journey. And I think it's very powerful. I think it's emotional. I think it's inspiring. And I'm getting a lot of amazing, great feedback from everybody who's reading it. However, I almost wish, and I won't do this, I almost wish I can go back and rewrite it, knowing what I know now in just this short span of time. Because I started writing that book. Well, I probably started writing that book when I was a child because I pulled from a lot of old like journals and stuff. But I mean, I really concentrated on it going back 2.5 years ago. And my spiritual growth in the last 1.5 to 2 years has been tremendous. In the last 3 months, I've learned so much that the stories in that book, are coming from that baggage, from that pain, from the stories that I was telling myself. It wasn't coming from me recognizing the belief constructs that I had inside. It wasn't coming from, from an open mind. It wasn't, though there's a lot of opportunity and possibility and hope and love and vision and my passion is totally in that book. Like, I don't want to knock the book, especially because I want to sell the book and I want everybody to buy it, right? But I learned so much since then, right? So I think the book, the people who inspired the stories in that book, again, they weren't about those people, right? They were about me and what I experienced through my lens. And one of the things I said in the opening of the book is like, there's 3 sides to every story, right? Right? There's my side, your side, and the truth. And I think now, just now, 22 years later, we're really starting to heal to a point where we're really recognizing the truth, right? And again, it's not right or wrong or good or bad. It's awareness of our soul just being our soul, right? It's the awareness of us being on this planet to experience what we experience, right? Sure, we've all made quote unquote mistakes. We all judge ourselves, and we say, oh, society says this and I did this wrong and now my whole life is a mess and I screwed everything up. None of that is true. None of that is true. And every possibility and opportunity for you to be, to love, to experience is yours for the taking. We all have the ability to recognize the stories inside of ourselves. We all have the ability to rewrite those stories, and we all have the ability to take that and create whatever we want, right? And we all have passion inside of us that can be ignited to create whatever dream that's possible. We don't have to be blocked by any of these stories, which I think is super important to recognize. So, like, if there are viewers, because I can't see Facebook on here.
There are. I see up in the corner. There's it's been up to 1 point 16. Now we've got 10. So keep on speaking.
Awesome. So, like, for the viewers who are watching, because I'm also into interactive, I will respond to you later. But ask questions. They could be personal questions, but they could also be about yourself. If you want to have a conversation later on about if any of this is sparking something inside of yourself, I'd love to have a further conversation with you. And let's just have like some deeper dives. I love speaking to people. But back to you, Regina. My question for you, so it's twofold, right?
Yeah.
Because we had a really powerful moment when during the first interview, you hadn't read Beautiful Souls, right? Yeah. And then you read.
I think I ordered it and I just started like reading it. I think something like that. Or I ordered it.
Right. So obviously, I think we have to dive a little bit into, because I'm also watching how much time we have. A little bit into your reaction to Beautiful Souls, because we had a powerful moment. Is that a moment? Clash? Not really a clash, but really an opportunity for our personal growth in our relationship, right? Yeah. As you went through the chapters of the character that inspired you, right? So I really want to make that clear. Like, it's not like, cross the T's and dot the I's and everything was like, true to form, right? It was a character that you inspired, and there was a lot of stuff that was in there, right? So that's the first question I have for you is, let's talk a little bit about that reaction. And the second question is, I would love to know, overall, what was your favorite part of the book that didn't have anything to do with you?
Oh, the rest of it. That's really easy. It's super easy. So this is like perfect. Thanks, Hal. So there was a reaction. So guys, guess what? When we're talking about personal growth and development, it's a journey. It's my committed lifelong journey. No matter how much you do, no matter what you do, there's always opportunities to continue to grow and develop. So got the book, and I've been blessed to have known a lot about Hal's life prior to me, and was really just all the way up to that chapter was, I really felt, I almost was like an empath, like the way you wrote it. It was like, I had to take moments of walking away from it, because you can like talk to someone and you can, be in a relationship with them and they can share the experience with you. And I can remember like you talking all of that stuff prior. But now it was like the way it was written, it's like you're like literally with you. Like, it's that whole conversation of we're one energy was right there. It was like there was no difference between you and or me. It was really like painful and beautiful and eye-opening, and really in the beginning he got into the meats and the potatoes. And because I know his family and people, it was just this whole like, wow, for me it was like all kind of made sense. Like it all just kind of made sense of like, again, the conversations of like the stories we held on and what worked and what didn't. and I was down. I got to me, reading like my part. I'm always that. I already told Hal I wanted to jump to me and just kind of read, but I was like, I do that in every book. It doesn't matter. I'm a little narcissistic. It's really about the. It really is about like I love to get to the ending. Like Josh is always like, "Why are you reading the ending of the book?" I'm like, I just want to see the happy ending. I'm one of those like happy ending. Yay. But I got to that and I'm reading and I got super triggered, people, like super triggered. Like it was so triggering because what I started reading was the conversation I forgot, which is if you really read the book and you start reading what he shared about the book, I got really triggered. Like, what do you mean I'm a shitty person? What do you mean like all these things that occurred as like I wasn't a good person, like occurred as I wasn't a good wife. I wasn't, again, about me. There's something back to that story. There's something wrong here. And really the biggest one is there's something wrong with me. And so I really was upset. And thank goodness I've created for my life a community of where personal growth and development is our journey. I spoke to Josh. I ran to my husband to find the evidence so that he could tell me I can be mad at Hal. So I can call Hal and be like, you suck, like that. And it was blown away because I got to tell you how I go to Josh, who is literally like the growth and development for me guru. That's why he's there. He was like, okay, great. Hey, did you forget the acknowledgments that he wrote about you? Did you forget hey, that this is his perspective? He wrote this book to heal him. It is his perspective. This is his point of view. Like Hal was saying, there's yours, mine, and the truth. He's like, you're not willing and open to be getting into his perspective and really getting into his perspective of what he's gone through. Like you say you understand, like as a concept in your brain, but he's like, it's bigger than that. And I was like that just hit me, that just hit me like, whoa. And then he, shared about, look how far you guys have come. Look where we are. This is what we, meaning all of us, are up to. And then I have, a regular weekly call with Susan Schaefer and Diane Pratt, who's done all of this work as well and continues to do this work as well. And Susan picked up the phone and really supported me. Because listen, guys, at the end of the day, it was like such a beautiful journey for me to realize that little girl that I hate you, I'm going to throw rocks at boys, shows up. It shows up. No matter how much growth and development work you do, the difference is for me is that I'm committed to be surrounded by people, to be so vulnerable and be so raw and real so that they can remind me that that's just the story and it's not the truth. So that they can be there to guide me, to have me really do that work and be like, get back to that place of that place of wow, there's this story, and then here's the truth. And that each and every one of us are perfectly imperfect. We're perfectly imperfect. So that's what I want to share about that. And then I was able to call Hal because listen, I reacted and I wrote to him right away and I was like, wow, can't believe you wrote that. I feel like you're defaming my character. Listen, it all wasn't perfect. I didn't run to Josh. I did that first, then ran to Josh. Because there's still that part of shame and guilt, right? It's so wired. We're so wired that way. And then that gets Hal to react, and how you can share your part. When I wrote to you, what that triggered for you, which is what?
Oh, I felt I also, so it's a twofold answer to that, Regina.
Yeah.
I remember reading your message and I was definitely triggered as well, and it was an opportunity for me to grow. And yeah, I was like, oh, this is what I didn't want. Like, this is not what the purpose of this book is, not to hurt anybody. So all my stories started coming up as well. Like, oh my God, like, I'm a bad person. I'm going to hurt people. People are going to judge me. I almost didn't release the book originally because I was afraid that people were going to tell themselves whatever stories they were going to tell themselves about judging me. Which is why I made it a reality fiction to begin with. The reality fiction was really to protect that story, that fear. That's why I made it that a reality. So when I got your message, I was ready to like pull the book off the shelf, and I was like, but then at the same time, like, I took a deep breath and I was like, wait a second, like, Regina and I have a friendship. We've gone through a lot worse than this. Like, let's have a conversation. Let's hold the space. And I think within a couple of days and a couple of conversations, it was over. It was over, but it was beautiful because we got raw and we got real, and it was an opportunity, and we both grow. And that's the point for all the viewers, right? It's not to bore them necessarily with our relationship and our stories and our details, but to show that there is possibility for all of us, right? If you're feeling stuck, if you have that quiet conversation going on inside that you're not good enough, or you don't know what the next steps are, or you're feeling lost or confused, or you're afraid that I'm stuck in this relationship, or this is the pattern, or I can't have a different ending or a different scenario. I'm here to say that that's not true, right? I mean, not only from our example of our story, but from all of our experiences, right?
Yeah.
Every moment in life is an opportunity to grow and define whatever you want to define as the borders and the boundaries of your life, right? Anything is possible. I think we have to pull away from the stereotypes in society, right? And the stuff that is hurting our personal growth individually and collectively as a planet, and spiritually in the universe, and we need to start looking at what makes us grow and what makes us tick, and how do we put that out in the world. And I think if we take the example of, like, today's subject is the dreaded word of divorce, but the dreaded anything in your life that whether you are vocalizing it or not vocalizing it, anything is possible. You can switch that story. You can change that story, right? Which I'm excited, because that's the work that I'm kind of delving into now.
I think it's the perfect one. I'm just going to quickly add to answering the second part of second part of the book. So really, having that opportunity to grow and really dive into, I needed, a day or two just to kind of be with myself, and totally get the whole entire message. It was that part of the healing of myself, or where that was. And it was easy. It was quick texts. Reason why it took 2 days, guys, was not because it took 2 days. It was because Hal and I's lives, are busy, right? We're just up to like a lot of things in life. So I would text, and, by the time he would respond, it could be, it was the next day. But really, I would say if we got on the phone, we would have been like complete within like 10 minutes. But it just took 2 days between just responding back to texts. That's really it. The rest of the book from that moment on, when you're saying my favorite part, and again, literally lifting that veil away and totally open, is the rest of it was just an extraordinary journey, Again, the way you write, I was like there. I really love a good book when someone can have me be right in that. I'm a big Harry Potter fan, right? We went through that Harry. So that's how I felt, when you're in.
Are you gonna compare me to J.K. Rowling? That's like, all right, yeah, go ahead. Can we tag J.K. Rowling on this interview? That's cool.
No, but seriously, when you're reading that book, I was there, and that's how I felt. Now, again, that's my experience. Is it because I know you? We'll add a little check to that, I guess. But based on how I know myself, and when you can really release all of those stories, all of those attachments, forget who Hal is and, all of that. I really got into the character. There's a character in your book, Morena, who's like my favorite, like my favorite character the whole entire time. And pretty much figured it out toward the end until I asked you. But like each, between that relationship with Morena and yourself, and then every other person that you kept on meeting and who like touched your soul and touched your life, that like you felt a connection with, that you thought this might be the one. It was beautiful to see how each person showed up in your life for you. And I love the healing. Like I saw the healing of it, each person more and more, you like loving you, creating boundaries, like you seeing then in the next relationship, which you might have not seen in the relationship before, and so on and so forth. That was really beautiful, where you were like, this reminds me of this. And like, no, I'm at this stage now. And so I'm going to create that boundary, and I'm going to like do, say what I need to say, where in the past I would say, you wouldn't have said that to me. You wouldn't have said that to the prior person. You wouldn't have said that to the first person. So it's really to see you grow and be able to take those experiences and again, not from a right or a wrong, but from really a perspective of like learning about you and really being connected to you and your soul and your heart and who Morena was for you, which is like all sides, right? All sides of it, and being able to like heal. And so each relationship for me offered more and more of like seeing that growth and development. And the best part, like I think my favorite part from the beginning to the end is like, guys, when we say open and willingness and determination and commitment, holy cow. That's human being. And that was for me like that for you. Like I really got who you are as a human being, like the most extraordinary, committed, determined, resilient person on the planet. Like guys, if we look at ourselves, I'm like, I would keep on questioning, damn, but I don't think I'd do that. I don't think I'd do that. And it has me look at, no, seriously, it has me really look at daily. So your book, if I took away this little thing, my room is clean. So on my nightstand are certain books. And I've had books forever. And Josh was like, you ever going to read them? You ever going to read them? He couldn't believe I read it because Hal's book is pretty thick. It's like, really thick. So I read your book, and I have like Dina Wilcox's book on my, on there as well. And a couple of other books. Those are the ones that I haven't, even though I read them, I don't take them away. Because I also have highlighted stuff and journaled stuff. Because my morning routine every day is to like get up, take a breath, say something of gratitude to the universe, for me, God, and then something of gratitude of myself and my family. And then the best thing is I get to like go downstairs and do like my work, which is my energy management work. And some of that is those lessons inside of those books. Because the things that I'm like, what I take away is like, where am I not committed? Where do I stop myself? Where is there resilience, like not in my life? That's what I got from your particular book. Resiliency, determination, really that has me continue to self-grow, self-love, like all of that. Like I know it, like a knowing is one thing, but like that's like a commitment bigger. And, now that you're on your journey, and we'll get into using the rest of the time about the Passion Center and the Hal Eisenberg, Leadership Academy, you're up to huge, huge things. And we shared this morning that, I feel like I'm the springboard. I'm like that match that starts the fire for people, right? Like the match, like let's light them up. Let's get them on fire. Let's really have them delve into like all of that. And then my commitment is then to have people grow and pass them on to the, the Eisenberg, Leadership Academy, to the Passion Center, the Women's Impact Academy, like whatever, like I'm that resource for everybody to take it to that next level, Landmark, like all of these places. So that's what I got out of your book. Really just, that beautiful, like that you got your beautiful soul, like you got your beautiful soul, and you got to like acknowledge and see through all of those people that came to your life that they all are just you got a way to write that story. It would be interesting to write the new story now, right? But that book is specifically to show people that like all of that pain and all of that healing, and all of that pain that we carry, and you still made it to the day. Like if you didn't even get that awareness, you know what I mean? Like you still made it. Like you were still went to college and still got your degree and still created your agency and still like made an impact on families and communities and organizations and the band and hundreds of thousands of dollars that we raised for organizations before even like that awareness. Now look where it is today, right?
Yeah.
So, we're all great.
Wow.
I'm just saying, like we all are great.
Wow. Thank you. And I'm almost speechless. And I'm glad that that's what you got from the book. And I hope everybody gets that from the book. And the idea of the title Beautiful Souls was to really not only connect to the beautiful soul that I was hoping to uncover, but to really, to recognize that every person in my life has been a beautiful soul because they have built on that awareness and those lessons. Somebody asked me when they read the book, did everything happen like that, like in order? Like and I was like 100% not. Like, I had so many stories that I really wanted to use to illustrate a possible lesson or a way for the reader to go in deeper into what they might be feeling. Because we talked about a lot of things. We talked about homelessness and drug addiction and relationships and spirituality and, religion and the education system and society in that book, that I wanted to make sure that the story kind of had some kind of linear sense to it. But in reality, the stories are like way all over the place. But I was hoping that how you described the book is perfectly. And I might have to take the transcript from that and use it in the bio somewhere. But thank you for that. And I hope everybody gets that from the book. And going through that story, I guess, is a catalyst to where I am now, right? Because I think this has been a journey. So I'm doing a lot of amazing work now. I'm blessed, Regina, of what you said. You have always been, as long as I've known you, you've always been a connector. Whether it was, friendships or companies or businesses. And I think what you're doing with Here for You is amazing and beautiful. And I've been really, really blessed in this healing journey the last 2 years. I came across an organization called the Passion Center up in Toronto. And I took part in all of their programs. And I've done a ton of transformational work. And I had never experienced anything transformative like this. And I've done great programs, I think Maria might be on here. Her program's amazing. I did the ego deconstruction program with her, and I know she was part of Landmark. That program was awesome. I know the work that you're doing is awesome. Women's Impact Academy, Sandy, like my heart explodes every time I hear her speak, because she was my very first student, as she corrected me on our lesson. And the work that she's doing, it has like paid it forward like a millionfold. So I love that. For my personal journey, when people looked at my life, I had reached close to 300,000 people when I met Kira and I met the people at the Passion Center, and people would look at me and say, well, he's got a successful life. But there was something inside that despite the success on the outwardness, there was something inside that was missing. I was stuck. I needed to go deeper. I needed to figure out what was going on inside of me. So it's a little bit different than coaching. I think the work we do at the Passion Center kind of gets thrown into the mix of coaching. But my title now there is the Passion Activator. And it's the perfect title because what we're doing is activating people's passion. right? And we're taking them through a 28-week program, a program that I went through, and it's called like Zero to Hero, right? So it's for
Oh, nice.
professionals and people like myself who were really, really stuck and didn't know what the next step was. People look at me and say, well, you don't need transformational work. We all need transformational work, right? And going through that program got me clear through a different lens that I had never seen before. You know, we really got into what was blocking me, you know, and how to discover my passion. And then from there, really how to build a viable business project or venture, you know. So people who have gone through the Passion Center programs, sometimes high-level executives, you know, who are making tons of money and you would think are successful, but inside they're quietly like, I don't want to do this. I'm in this career or I'm in this place because somewhere along the line, somebody told me I should do this, right?
Yeah.
You know, you have to do this. You know, in high school, we work with high school students, right? We tell them, find a college, you know, pick a career, pick a track. And we haven't even taught them awareness yet, right? Awareness comes 30 years later. How do you choose your life at that point, right? When you don't even know what passion is, you don't know how to activate your passion. There are professionals out in the world, tons, right? So really, really important statistic that I want to touch upon, 85%, this was a Gallup poll, 85% of North Americans are disengaged from work, and it's causing a $7 trillion deficit. I want that to sink in, because a lot of people, when they do these interviews, they throw data out and then they don't stop. And like, I want all the viewers to like think about that. 85% are disengaged. Let's think about that just through the lens of education. If 85% of teachers are disengaged and not inspired to show up at work, that means only 15% of teachers are doing work from their passion to ignite youth that are going to be the next generation, the 21st century people to solve 21st century problems, but they're only getting inspired by 15%.
Hence the broken education system.
The broken education system. And that's just the education lens, right?
I know. Yeah.
85% of workers are disengaged, right? I'm a firm believer, and I really don't think I'm biased, that programs like the Passion Center can take that statistic and decrease it tremendously. And we have to, as a society, we have to look at that, because that number has to come down. That's the first problem. If we could really dig down and say, why is most of the planet disengaged? Why are we uninspired? Why do we not know that passion is not an emotion, that we all have it, and all we have to do is know how to ignite it? We all have the ability to take these lessons, these repeated lessons growing up that block us, and we can unblock them, right? We can pull it all apart and create the reality, the dreams, the future that you want. It's the hero's journey, right? The challenge becomes, Regina, is like, now we have this amazing 28-week program, right? You know, and we want to attract people to this program because I believe personally it's transformative. So when I went through the program, one of the passions I discovered was not only I wanted to switch the work I was doing at Windows of Opportunity, which is great work. I've reached 300,000 youth. It was awesome. You know, the part that was missing for me is that I wanted to do more, and I wanted to do something that was more systemic, right? So I started to really realize that I wanted to switch into systems work. But then it got even deeper than that. So like I have an education framework. I have an amazing team around me. We're going into schools and we're working with schools to transform them. We're working with principals and superintendents. We've written curriculums. We have a system that looks at every aspect of the system. And that's great. And that's one of my passion projects. Then through continuing to do the work with the Passion Center, I realized it was even bigger than that, right? Because it was all these different systems. It was all of society. It was everybody, right? I want to work with people in corporate. I want to work with professionals. I want to work with adults who I can't tell you how many adults who have seen my youth programs and said, I wish I had that as an adult, right? So now through the Passion Center and through that amazing team we have over 100 years of business, social media, marketing, expertise. The team is just beyond phenomenal. They're the ultimate tribe. In that Zero the Hero, when we bring people to their business venture, we provide them with the opportunity to present in front of investors and professionals and accountants and market things that would cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. We do for a minimal fee, and it's life transformational. So one of the things I wanted to, if you just give me a few seconds, Regina, because I think we're over the 1 hour mark. There's a couple of free opportunities for people just to get a taste. We built a community of support that's just free for anybody who's on this call, who is like-minded. We created our own social media platform. I guess we could use Facebook to promote our own social media platform. It's bit.ly. We'll put this in the comments later, /passion-circle. And it's our own community of like-minded thinkers that are there to support your growth. You don't need to be in a program to be in the circle. It's amazing. There's activities there, where you can take 5-day challenges. Just the 5-day challenge, which is, also free, is mind-blowing. Like, that alone is transformational. Like, I challenge everybody to get on there and take the 5-day challenge. And then we have, we're doing LinkedIn Lives. Thursday night, we're doing this amazing, you were at the last one, Regina. We brought back Passion Nights. So the last Thursday of every month, we're having an open Zoom call that we're bringing in guest speakers. This Thursday, we have Catherine Tanaka, phenomenal human being and speaker. Totally love her. So we're going to have, a lot of free resources and conversations monthly, through Passion Nights. So that's the last Thursday of every month. So, we'll put that link down, below also. So we want to, invite everybody, for that too. Except, I'm sorry, I have to make a correction. I feel like I hear my team's voice in my head. That Passion Nights is not free. It's a $20 donation that's going to go to a charity that we're going to announce. So that's what we did with the last Passion Nights. We donated it to our Dream Out Loud conference that is also coming up soon with our youth. So yeah.
So I'm going to leave it with this. That's a lot, and it'll all be in there. So 2 things that I heard. Number one was when you asked, sort of like I was thinking, what's missing in society is it starts for me. We're not connected to ourselves, because we're going to go back to what we're beginning with, right? Which is we are connected to the stories that we've created in our life that's running our life. And so that work that you're doing at the Passion Center, and the work that I'm doing and so many people are doing is really that we're all out to have people connect to the not your story, my story, but the truth. 100%. And so to light your passion up, how do you even know what that is when you're not even connected to who you really are? You're connected to the story.
Correct.
So that's what I'm kind of, go ahead.
That's why the first part of our journey is getting, I don't want to give away all the material, right? But the first part of the journey is actually getting to the root of that, right? Getting to your root beliefs and your constructs and how to deal with that, right? And it's that alone. The first course in the 28 weeks. Listen, I'm totally not biased. Everyone I speak to who has taken this program has said this has changed their life. Yeah. Period. Done.
Yeah. And so that's where we're going to bring it full circle, which is when we're saying redefining the dreaded word divorce.
All right. That's how we started.
I'm great at bringing it together.
There you go. Bring it back.
Bring it back, which is redefining the dreaded word divorce, really comes from that conversation of, what is that belief system? What is running that, show, because really we're just a writer or author or character or director in our own show. So what's running the show? Guess what, guys? We're all in it. We're all in it. It's one giant show. One giant show. But if we're going to just start with you individually, as your energetic being that you are, there is a story that's running it. And if it's not working the way you like it, and if you're feeling stuck and lost and sad and depressed and anxious and even resigned, there are a lot of resources out there to have you be able to look at that story, no matter how painful it is, with love and support and an open, non-judgmental, safe place. And that's what Hal's talking about. So that you then can look at that story and get to that place of where Hal and I started this conversation, getting it to look from a clean page. And then you get to rewrite that story. Hal wrote his book from a place of being able to be taken out of all that feelings and emotions and charge around it and create his characters and share what he saw through this journey of his life and the stories, how they were created, how they impacted his life, how they impact him internally and personally, and how all of that impacts everything from his relationships to his job, communication, everything. If he rewrote the book today, he would have another lens. That's what's beautiful about life. We can keep on growing and developing, going through like a 28-week program with that lens. And it really is one lens, guys. It really is that one, like if you're stuck, depressed, like it's bottom line, how amount of people that I've worked with and we've worked with and the work we've done, that story of I'm not good enough, that story of like I'm not worth it, impacts everybody. I don't care if you're a corporate billionaire. There's always, right?
100%.
I got to make more. I got to make more. I got to make more. Why? Because that's that show that's running. Like, I'm not good enough. I got to make more. I got to make more. I got to make more. 100%. And then you've got all the evidence in the world to show you that. And you've structured your whole entire life around that. You've structured your whole entire life of the things and the shows and the boat and the house and the who you're around. So of course you need to make more to keep up to that standard.
Yeah.
To go through a program like yours, to go through a program like any of the ones that we've talked about, working with Hal, me, any of the places that we're talking about, gives you an opportunity to look at that safely, to look at that and really realize it's a story and that you've got an opportunity to rewrite that.
And not only that, Regina, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. But I think 2020 and COVID-19 and the issues that we've had with systemic racism that has come to the surface has exacerbated society's responsibility to do this work and wanting and the desire to do this work, not only individually, but collectively. When we think about that 85% statistic, and we think about programs like the Passion Center that are creating these passion-based ventured businesses, now you've got, an incubator to create, socially conscious. Did I say that word right? Businesses in society that are coming from passion and not the disgruntled billionaires or people who are unhappy in their job, right? I think we all collectively have to look at that. We transform individually and then we transform society together. And that's the bottom line. And that's what 2020 taught us. 2021 is the year of creation. And just like we're keeping building our awareness, I think society has to keep building their awareness. And that's point period. Like, I think that's what this is all about.
Yeah. And so Hal and I have got all of the resources, all of, different opportunities, windows of opportunities for you guys to be able to do that. I really want to thank you, Hal. I want to thank you so much for, coming on and, being with me and really giving that bigger perspective. It's why it's a great collaboration and partnership. It's building upon what we're up to. So sure, guys, you've got the choice to, live the life you want. You can decide and kill off all possibility, like IDE is like killing off possibility, like pesticide, homicide, genocide, or you can choose. You can choose from a really free standpoint. And I know it's scary, but guess what? The biggest scare is the fact that, maybe it's not like, it's the fear of what is possible. And that's what stops most people, like the fear of what's possible, So we're out to shift that conversation. We're out to not just shift individually, but shift collectively. Because in my beautiful friend Jessie and her program is ripple effect, right? Have that ripple effect. And we can have that reality of a planet that really works for each and every. So thank you, Hal.
Regina, you mentioned that program, and I just want to jump in before we say goodbye. First of all, I'm going to thank you to end everything off, but I just want to make it a point. I was having this conversation with Kira the other night. We went to something called Purpose Driven Party, and it was a bunch of like-minded thinkers having a party online, but then sharing each other's gifts. And what I realized, my friend Louis has a program called ARC, where he had developed PTSD and by behind the scenes working in media. Long story, has an amazing book called ARC. Everybody should get it, right? But one of the things that he says is we're so focused on the media and the negativity coming in. But what came clear to me just now when you were talking about all these connections, and we're talking about, you mentioned Dina, who I love dearly, right? And all these amazing programs and the Women's Impact Academy. There's so many souls out there doing great things that we don't focus on. And I think we should be supporting one another. I think we should be sharing each other's resources. And I think we should be, that's part of forget the competition. Let's work collectively together and let's focus. There's a lot of good in the world. We're so focused on that narrow negativity that feeds the stories that we're telling us, when on the side where we're not looking is all this positivity. Let's start focusing on the positivity as a planet. And I know we're way over, Regina, so I just want to end by saying thank you so much for having me once again. And thank you for being a beautiful soul in my life, and continuing to be that. And I know we're going to have a million more conversations. So, God bless.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Here we're leaving us, not bad, 17 minutes over. That is not bad at all. I was thinking at least another 30, but we ended it here.
I'm ready to go another 30 if you want.
Absolutely. So from us to you, have the day that you want to have. Hal's going to be putting in a lot of the information as soon as we're finished going live. Reach out to him, reach out to me. We are here for you to listen, to share. We are I think you said it beautifully. It's not a competition, guys. We've got everything that you want and you need. We will listen, and we are here to support you and direct you and guide you to what works for you. So for that, make it happen. What's your passion? That's my thing I'm going to leave you with. What are you passionate about? Think about it. Put it
in the comments below.
Exactly. All right, guys, we're going to sign off. Bye.
Bye.